Welcome! Do you want to learn English in a fun and easy way? In this video, we teach English using narrated, animated stories. Here is how it works. On the left, watch the beautiful animations. They are designed to help you understand and enjoy the story. On the right, you can read along as you listen to the narrator. When we reach a difficult word, don't worry. A box will appear at the bottom with a simple definition and an example to help you learn. Let's get started.
Ferdinand Magellan is famous for leading the first journey around the world. But here is a surprising fact. He never completed this historic journey himself. He died far from home on a remote beach in the Philippines. Local warriors fought him and took his body. It was never found, so he had no grave or monument. Those who survived his dangerous trip often spoke badly about him. Because of this, his name was not fully honored for a long time. His great achievement, once seen as a triumph, became tarnished by their negative accounts. This story makes us ask a big question. What drives a person to risk everything? Why would someone put their life, their good name, and their family's future in jeopardy for a destination they are not even sure exists? Magellan had a monumental ambition. He wanted to find a new sea route to the rich Spice Islands by sailing west, a way no European ship had ever gone before. In his time, many believed this was impossible. They thought the world might end or that the oceans were too vast to cross. His journey was incredibly long, difficult, and full of danger. It proved that the Earth was a large, round globe, much bigger than most people imagined. He successfully found a secret passage connecting two vast oceans, a difficult waterway that still carries his name today, the Strait of Magellan. Magellan was a brave and determined leader. He was driven by big dreams and a strong will to prove his ideas were correct, despite all challenges. However, his life was also filled with immense hardship and conflict. He faced a terrible mutiny where some of his own captains rebelled against his authority. His crew suffered terribly from hunger and severe sickness, like scurvy, during the long months at sea across an unknown ocean. In the end, he died in a local battle in the Philippines, killed by people defending their homeland. He was so close to his expedition completing the full circle around the world, yet he never saw its end. This book will explore the true story of Ferdinand Magellan. We will learn about his powerful ambition, his difficult decisions, and the complex reality of his achievement. It was a journey of both great success and deep tragedy. We will look beyond the simple legend to understand the man who fundamentally changed how we see our planet and its size. His story is one of incredible courage, great sadness, and a discovery that truly cost him everything. It compels us to understand the man behind the myth. 2. A boy with a big dream. Ferdinand Magellan was born in Portugal around the year 1480. His family was not rich, but they had good connections. When he was 12 years old, Ferdinand went to Lisbon. He became a page in the royal court, serving the Queen and then King Manuel I. Here, he received an excellent education. He learned important subjects like mathematics, astronomy, and navigation. These skills were extremely important because Portugal was a leading country at sea, always looking for new trade routes and expanding its power. Young Ferdinand spent many hours studying maps and charts. He was very fascinated by the blank spaces on these maps. These empty areas showed vast oceans whose far shores no one in Europe had ever seen. He wondered what lands and peoples lay beyond. The idea of discovering what was beyond these unknown parts of the world became a very strong dream for him, filling him with a great sense of adventure and ambition. Later, Magellan joined the Portuguese military to gain practical experience. From 1505, he served in places like India, East Africa, and Malaysia. He took part in many military actions and became a skilled warrior and sailor. In 1511, he helped conquer the port of Malacca in what is now Malaysia. It was there that he gained a servant named Enrique. Enrique was a native Malay speaker, meaning he could understand and speak the local languages. This ability to communicate across different cultures would later prove to be extremely valuable for Magellan's great journey around the world. Magellan's friend Francisco Serrao reached the Moluccas, also known as the Spice Islands. These islands were famous for incredibly valuable spices like cloves and nutmeg. Serrao's letters home, describing the immense wealth and beauty of these islands, deeply influenced Magellan. He began to think, if such riches could be found by sailing east, could they also be found by sailing west, by finding a new path across the globe? This question would guide the rest of his life and push him to find a new way to the Spice Islands. After his time in the East, Ferdinand Magellan returned to Portugal, but things did not go well for him. In 1513, while fighting in Morocco, he was badly hurt. This injury left him with a permanent limp. Soon after, he was also accused of trading goods illegally with people called the Moors. This accusation was false, but it caused him much trouble and damaged his name. Despite his years of brave service to Portugal, King Manuel I did not like Magellan. Perhaps other people at court, who were Magellan's enemies, spoke badly about him. Magellan asked the king for more pay and for money to fund a new voyage. He wanted to sail west to find the rich Spice Islands, a route no one in Europe had ever proven. But King Manuel repeatedly said no to his proposals. The king refused to help him or believe in his grand idea. This constant rejection deeply hurt Magellan and filled him with frustration and anger. The king's actions were a great insult to Magellan. He had served his country with loyalty in many battles, even getting a lifelong injury for it. Yet his own king did not trust him and would not support his vision for exploration. This personal humiliation was difficult for Magellan. He was a proud man, and to be pushed away by his own homeland was a terrible feeling. By late 1515 or early 1516, King Manuel finally allowed Magellan to leave Portugal and work for another ruler if he wished. This decision was a huge mistake for Portugal. By sending Magellan away, they lost a great explorer who would soon change the world's map forever. Magellan felt completely betrayed. He was sure that his idea for a western route was correct, and he knew his skills as a sailor and map maker were strong. He was determined to find the passage to the Spice Islands. If his own country would not help him, he would find another. So, in 1517, Magellan made a very brave but also dangerous decision. He went to Spain, Portugal's greatest rival. He planned to present his bold plan to the young King Charles I of Spain, hoping for the chance to prove his critics wrong and achieve his lifelong goal. A new king says yes. Magellan arrived in Spain, a country that was a big rival to his home, Portugal. He had a grand idea, and he needed a new king to listen. He met King Charles I of Spain, a young ruler who was only 18 years old. Charles had just become king and was keen to make Spain powerful and rich, much like Portugal. Magellan presented his audacious plan to find a western sea route to the valuable Spice Islands. He showed his maps and shared his many years of sailing experience in the East. He told the king that a great ocean lay beyond the Americas, a fact confirmed by another Spanish explorer, and he was certain he could find a way through. King Charles I saw a great chance for Spain to gain wealth and fame. He agreed to fund the expedition. This was Magellan's big moment. He could finally prove that his critics in Portugal were wrong and achieve his lifelong dream. This agreement brought hope to Magellan, giving him the opportunity he had desperately sought. However, the Spanish court was deeply suspicious of Magellan. He was, after all, Portuguese, and Portugal was Spain's main competitor at sea. They worried he might not be fully loyal to Spain's interests. To keep a close watch on him, the Spanish authorities made important changes to the plans. They chose mostly Spanish sailors for the crew, instead of the Portuguese Magellan preferred. More importantly, they appointed Juan de Cartagena, a Spanish official and a political opponent, as Inspector General. Cartagena's secret job was to watch Magellan closely and try to undermine his authority. So even before the journey started, Magellan was leading a trip designed, in part, to challenge his command. On September 20th, 1519, 5 ships were ready to depart from the Spanish port of Sanlúcar de Barrameda, sailing west. The ships were named Trinidad, Magellan's own ship, San Antonio, Concepcion, Victoria, and Santiago. They were fully packed with food, goods for trading with new lands, and weapons. About 270 men were on board, coming from many different parts of Europe, including Spain, Portugal, Italy, and Germany. Magellan's servant, Enrique of Malacca, was also part of this diverse crew. A Venetian nobleman, Antonio Pigafetta, joined as a volunteer, eager to write a detailed journal of the journey. The ships sailed into the unknown, carrying not only their vital supplies, but also the strong national rivalries and deep mistrust that simmered among the men. The long, dangerous voyage into the uncharted waters had finally begun, full of both promise and hidden dangers. 5. The long winter and a fight. The fleet sailed south along the big coast of South America, looking for a way to the other side of the world. They faced strong winds and cold weather. Day after day, the land remained the same, long, empty shores. The journey was hard, and it felt endless. As winter began, the ships found a bay where they could hide from the worst of the storms. They called this place Port St. Julian. It was a desolate and freezing area, far from any towns or warm places. They had to stay there for 5 long months. Life on the ships became very difficult during this time. The cold bit at the men, and their clothes were thin. Food supplies started to run low, and the water was often bad. The men grew sick and tired. Their spirits or morale began to plummet greatly. Many of the Spanish sailors, especially the captains, did not trust Magellan. They were tired of the search for a passage that seemed to not exist. They thought Magellan was taking them on a trip that was foolish and would lead to nothing good. A strong feeling of resentment grew among the Spanish leaders against Magellan, who was Portuguese. They believed he was a bad leader and had failed them. This anger got stronger every day they stayed in the cold, empty bay. The tension became too much to hold. One dark night, the anger finally broke out. It was around midnight on April 1, a day that would be remembered. Some of the Spanish captains, led by Gaspar de Quesada and Juan de Cartagena, secretly gathered armed men. They moved quietly in small boats from one ship to another. First, they took control of the San Antonio. Then, they quickly moved to the Concepcion and the Victoria. In a few hours, 3 of the 5 ships in the fleet were in the hands of the rebels. This was a mutiny, a direct rebellion against Magellan's command. Magellan was now in a very dangerous situation. He was stuck in Port St. Julian with only his own ship, the Trinidad, and the small Santiago. He was greatly outnumbered by the rebel ships and their armed crews. It looked like he had completely lost control of his important journey. The Spanish rebels had seized a large part of his fleet. Magellan was cornered. His dream of finding the Western Passage and his grand expedition seemed to be at an end, stopped by the cold winter and a fight among his own men. Chapter 6. Finding the Secret Passage. After the mutiny at Port St. Julian, Magellan showed his ruthless side. He did not negotiate with the rebels. Instead, he acted swiftly and attacked. He sent a small boat to the ship Victoria with hidden armed men. They killed the rebel captain, Luis de Mendoza. Magellan then skillfully moved his ships to block the harbor entrance. This stopped the remaining rebel ships from escaping. Within 2 days, Magellan had crushed the mutiny. He then held a court where he sentenced the main leader, Quesada, to death. On April 7, 1520, Quesada was beheaded. His body and Mendoza's were cut into pieces and displayed on poles as a grim warning to any other crew members who might consider rebellion. Magellan also left Juan de Cartagena and a priest stranded on a small distant island with only a small amount of food and wine. They were never seen again. These harsh actions clearly demonstrated Magellan's iron will and his strong control over the expedition. He had saved the voyage from ending early, but many of the surviving crew now felt deep resentment towards him. After enduring the long winter, the fleet once again set sail, continuing its journey south. Unfortunately, one ship, the Santiago, was lost in a severe storm during an exploratory mission. Most of its crew, however, managed to survive by reaching the shore. Then, in October 1520, a momentous event occurred. Magellan's fleet finally discovered the elusive passage they had been seeking. It was a winding, often difficult channel located at the southern tip of South America. This important passage connected the Atlantic Ocean to the vast Pacific Ocean and stretched for about 570 kilometers. This significant waterway would forever be known as the Strait of Magellan. It was a great triumph for Magellan and his men, proving his theory that a western route existed. However, this moment of victory was soon followed by a significant loss. While navigating through the newly discovered strait, the largest ship in the fleet, the the San Antonio, deserts the expedition. It turned around and sailed back to Spain, taking with it a very large portion of the fleet's precious food supplies. Now, Magellan was left with only 3 ships, a smaller crew, and drastically reduced provisions. Some of his remaining commanders strongly urged him to turn back, believing it was too dangerous to continue. But Magellan, with his unwavering determination, refused. He made the difficult decision to sail into the immense, unknown Pacific Ocean, despite the serious risk of facing a starving crew. The future of the expedition was now more uncertain than ever. Chapter 7. The End of the Journey. The 3 remaining ships sailed into the biggest ocean on Earth, the Pacific. No one in Europe had any idea how truly huge it was. Magellan and his men thought it would only take a few weeks to cross. Instead, they sailed for 99 terrible days without seeing land. It was a horrific time for everyone. The crew suffered terribly from hunger and thirst. They quickly ran out of fresh food and clean water. They ate old, rat-bitten biscuits. When those were gone, they even ate softened leather parts from the ship, like straps. Many men became very sick with scurvy. Their gums bled, their teeth fell out, and old wounds opened again. It was a slow, painful way to die. Many men died from this severe starvation and sickness. Still, Magellan pushed them forward. He was determined to find land. Finally, in March 1521, after months at sea, they reached a group of islands called the Philippines. This was an incredibly important moment. Magellan's servant, Enrique, from this part of the world, could speak to the local people. This proved they had sailed all the way around the world to the east by going west. They had truly found the other side. Magellan also had a strong missionary zeal. He quickly started to teach the local people about Christianity. Many people agreed to change their religion, including a powerful local king named Raja Humabon. But not everyone was happy with Magellan. A chieftain named Lapu-Lapu, who ruled a nearby island called Mactan, strongly refused to accept the new religion or Spanish rule. Magellan, perhaps overconfident, made a surprising decision. He decided to fight Lapu-Lapu and his men himself. This was a strange choice for a captain. On April 27, 1521, Magellan personally led his men into battle on Mactan Island. The fight was chaotic and took place in shallow water. The Spanish soldiers, weighed down by heavy armor, found it hard to move quickly. Lapu-Lapu's warriors knew their home territory well. They used their local knowledge to fight effectively. Magellan was soon surrounded by the enemy. Many spears and swords struck him. He fell into the water and died there. His body was never given back. Lapu-Lapu kept it as a trophy of war. The great navigator Ferdinand Magellan had almost completed the first circumnavigation of the world, but he died tragically before finishing his own personal journey, so close to his magnificent goal. 8. Only one ship comes home. After Magellan died, more danger came for the crew. Raja Humabon, now angry with the newcomers, invited high-ranking members of the expedition to a dinner. There he massacred them with poison. This left very few men alive. The survivors had to quickly flee the Philippines, abandoning the Concepcion ship because they lacked enough sailors for it. Only 2 ships remained from the original 5. They pushed towards their goal, the Spice Islands, the Moluccas. They reached these rich islands in November 1521 and loaded valuable spices. However, only 1 ship, the Victoria, was seaworthy for the immense journey back to Spain. The Trinidad stayed behind, its crew later captured by Portuguese soldiers. The last ship, the Victoria, began its long final leg home under Juan Sebastian Elcano, one of the former mutineers. They sailed across the vast Indian Ocean and up the coast of Africa. In July, at the Cape Verde Islands, they made a strange discovery. Their logbooks showed they were 1 day behind the local time. Traveling west around the world had made them lose a day, a fascinating first proof of the Earth's true roundness. On September 6, 1522, the Victoria finally sailed into a Spanish port. The ship was old, damaged, and barely holding together. Of about 270 men who began, only 18 gaunt survivors returned. They were exhausted and thin, but they had completed the first circumnavigation of the world. The valuable spices made the deadly journey profitable for Spain. Magellan himself died before finishing his own circumnavigation. His legacy was complex. He was seen by some as a traitor or harsh commander and took part in colonial violence. Yet he was a brilliant visionary leader with amazing perseverance. His incredible voyage profoundly changed humanity's understanding of the planet's true size and spherical shape forever. What do you think was the most important discovery from Magellan's journey?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.